PNR Networks is a member of Patreon. Show your love for our shows by joining our ongoing fundraising campaign and get some fantastic perks in return. Check it out and become a Patreon sponsor. You can sign up at patreon.com, patreon.com/PNR Networks. And thanks for your support.
She just goes a little mad sometimes.
Do you ever feel like you're normal and the rest of the world has lost its collective mind?
Put your helmet on. We'll be reaching speeds of 3.
Do you find people saying this to you a lot?
Are you totally deranged?
Are you looking for a looking glass to pass through?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Or looking for a rabbit hole to fall down?
Who could think of a better punishment, really? Everything's the same here. It's just a little worse.
Guess what?
Life's a bitch. Now so am I.
You found it. Welcome to Platinum Rose's Garden.
Hello, my darlings. This is Platinum Rose Lady welcoming you back to Platinum Rose's Garden on Saturday, October 27th, 2018. Oh, it's almost here. It's almost here. It's almost here. Can you feel it? Oh, it's almost here. Of course, I'm talking about Halloween. My most favorite time of the year. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Don't let anybody fool you with all that crap about, well, no, I shouldn't say crap because obviously Christmas is very important to those of us of faith. But Halloween just has that special, wonderful feel to it, doesn't it, brothers and sisters? Oh, it feels so good. I just love this time of the year. Of course, it's Halloween in my head 24/7. So, there's that. I hope everybody had a great week. My week was pretty good. It was okay. The usual stuff, working hard and all that kind of stuff like that. There's a saying in New England, which is where I am from, the great and glorious state of Massachusetts. Go Sox! That's my entire baseball thing. I know nothing about baseball. I'm sorry. My mom's so disappointed in me for that and a million other reasons. But anyway, there's a saying in this part of the country, about the weather in New England. If you don't like it, wait 2 minutes. It'll change. And people think that's a joke. It's not. Trust me. We had weather up here. It was very super warm for this time of the year. And today it's like they're talking, nor'easter and all this crap, rain and 60-mile-an-hour winds and cold temperatures. I left the house yesterday going to work. It was 30 fucking degrees. 30. And that's Fahrenheit. I walked outside, I'm like, fuck this shit. But you gotta go to work. You gotta earn the money. But I was like, this is fucking absurd. And of course, it's the time of the year now. We have to leave pretty early to head to work. And so, we leave for work, it's dark. By the time we get out of work, it's getting dark. And I naturally am not a suntanny type of person. I've got Irish DNA, so I'm naturally pale, so it's funny because I worked another job where I would have to leave in the morning. It would be very dark. And by the time I got home, it was dark. And I worked somewhere that had no windows. I worked in a file room. So by spring, people would be like, are you okay? Cause it's like, you're really pale. Is something, are you okay? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm fine. It's just the fact that I don't tan. I don't tan. I just go from straight to pasty white to burn. There's no little nice in the middle thing there. But, since they say tanning causes cancer, what are you going to do? So Halloween. Oh, I love Halloween. I love this time of year. I always have. I've always loved Halloween and disguises and scary things and stuff like that, and classic monsters. I'm not begrudging people who are into the Saw and the Hostel movies and all that kind of thing. If that's your thing, great. It's not my thing. I'm more of the classic universal horror type of gal. Although for the most part, I never really felt afraid of some of those monsters. They always kind of were more like my friends than anything else, which probably says more about me than you needed to know. But, so, it's, because it's Halloween, there's all kinds of wonderful scary movies on TV, which is always great. I love when they have older scary movies on, stuff that you haven't seen before, stuff you've only heard about. That's really an awesome thing when you find a movie that you've heard about and, you've never seen, then you get to see it. That's such a cool feeling. Although sometimes that can kind of backfire on you. Quick story about that. Riff Tracks, the guys who do Riff Tracks, which are an awesome bunch of people that from Mystery Science Theater 3000, they one of the shows they did last year was Carnival of Souls. And I'd been hearing about this movie for years. It was a seminal horror movie, blah, blah, blah. So we went to see it, and unfortunately my husband wound up leaving because he spilled his drink all over his clothing because the cup cover was loose. Thank you so much. And he was like, I gotta get out of here because I'm covered in soda, and I felt terrible. And I was like, well, I'll go too. He's like, no, you stay and watch the movie because he's just awesome like that and puts my needs in front of his because he's just awesome and amazing. So I'm watching the movie, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching this movie that I've heard about for years and years and years. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, oh my gosh, this movie is not good. I'm kind of like side-eyeing other people, and I'm thinking to myself, do other people know this movie isn't good? Do other people know that you can see the twist ending, the quote-unquote twist ending coming a mile and a half away? I'm just sitting there like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm the only person that knows this. Because it was like, I've been hearing for years how amazing this movie is, and I'm just sitting there like, oh no. I'm like, is it everybody else that sees something and I'm just an idiot? Or what? I'm like, I don't get it. But, talking about a great classic movie experience that, TC and I had, we were lucky enough to head to a theater we hadn't been to before to see a re-release of the George Romero classic Night of the Living Dead, because that movie turns 50 this year. Yeah. Holy shit, I'm old. Oh man. Anyway, that, I won't go into what that meant. Sorry, but, so we went to this theater that we've never been to before. This place called Assembly Row, which is this new AMC theater that it was first time we'd ever been there. It's a very cool theater. It was a little hike to get to it because we went the wrong way. Instead of going one way out of the train station, we went another way, and it took a little longer than it would have if we'd gone the first way, because neither of us have any sense of direction. Hooray! That's always fun when you have two people that have no sense of direction whatsoever. That's always great. So, I love Night of the Living Dead. It's one of my favorite scary movies. It's also, to me, one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. And getting to see it on the big screen, that was a thrill. That was a real thrill. There was they had stuff on before it about the film and, talking with, George Romero's family, and that was awesome. The print they had of this movie was just amazing. So cool seeing it with this really clear print, and it was just an amazing film. So awesome. And just proof that you can make a movie, that is, an amazing seminal film without a huge budget. It doesn't have to have 9 kabillion explosions in it and all this stuff like that. So that was really exciting and cool, and definitely got us in the Halloween spirit. Get it? Joke? Look, I'm writing this stuff on my own, okay? What do you want? Anyway, moving forward, let's get to another part of the show that I hope you guys enjoy. I enjoy doing this, and that is looking up this week's fanfic of the week. Alrighty, this week's fanfic of the week, which I pick from the internet because I love reading fanfic, and I love other people to find fic and find authors that they like, because reading fanfic is fun and exciting. This week's fic is from an author named DJ89, who you can find on fanfiction.net. They have written 5 stories, all dealing with 2 different TV shows, Law and Order, Criminal Intent, one of my favorite shows ever, and NCIS, also one of my favorite shows ever. Their story that I'd like to highlight right now is a story called Spring Thaw, which is a Law and Order, Criminal Intent story. And this is what the plot outline says on fanfiction.net. Quote, Alex didn't know when it happened, but she knew it had. Her heart was warm and completely devoid of all barriers, end quote. Okay, that just right there makes you just go, oh, I have to read this story because, I have to confess something to you guys. I am a shipper. I've probably told you this before, but I am guilty of being a serious shipper. And I shipped the hell out of Alex Eames and Robert Gorin because I just thought they were like the cutest couple, and I thought they were good for each other, and I loved this story. It's not a long story, but it's short and to the point and very sweet and wonderful, and you should definitely go check it out and give the author some love. As I said, their author name is DJ89. DJ89, and you can look them up on fanfiction.net, and that is this week's fanfic of the week. And let's get to this week's Supernatural episode recap.
Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest.
Season 14, Episode 3 of Supernatural, The Scar. The Then is dealing with Jack, his grace and powers being stolen by Lucifer, and him trying to adjust to life as a human, which in certain ways he's doing really well with, and in other ways, like fighting monsters, not so much. Give him a break, he's still a kid. Also, we see Michael inhabiting the body of Dean Winchester and his experiments, and we find out his whole plan that he seems to be trying to sway the supernatural creatures of the Winchester's world to form an army to fight against the humans. The last thing we see in the then part of the opening is Dean being Dean. Dean's return. For some reason, Michael fled his body, and Dean is back in control, and Michael's in the breeze somewhere. And now we are at Now. And Now is in the Bat Cave in Lebanon, Kansas. And for a minute it's really worrying because we see Sam and Dean walking down a corridor. Dean shed the jacket that Michael was wearing. He's obviously cannot wait to get the hell out of the clothes that Michael had him in. And Dean's saying how he can't sleep, and it's constantly, he feels like it's watching him and all that. As it turns out, what he's talking about is Sam's beard. And he's like being a big brother and teasing Sam about the beard and, making all these remarks about Duck Dynasty and all this stuff like that. And Sam brings up that some people say he looks good in the beard. Yeah, you do, baby. And Dean's like, no, you don't. Basically he's like, get rid of it. And he's also saying how he doesn't really remember very much. He says he feels okay that Michael just left for some, he just came back to himself and Michael was gone. He says he doesn't really remember very much of anything from the time Michael was possessing him after he said yes. But he's just glad to get back to what he refers to he referred to the Batcave as home, and I was like, oh, that just made me squeak. Of course, he's a little surprised when he comes back and when they walk into one of the main rooms and there's all these people there. He's all like, oh, you get the feeling he's all like, I'm ready to have a beer and relax. And who the fuck are all these people? Because all of the hunters from the apocalypse world, a lot of them are still staying in the Batcave and fighting the good fight. He's also a little bit like, what the fuck? When one of the guys that Sam's talking to refers to Sam as Chief, he's definitely like, what? Dean has a very nice reunion between himself, Jack, and Cass. Jack gives him a big hug, which I was like, yay, hugs. Hugs are always good. And the smile on Castiel's face when he sees Dean, I'm like, hug him, hug him, hug him, hug him, hug him. And I'm not even a Destiel person, but I was all like, please hug him. You guys are best friends, or come on, hug him, please. But we didn't get a hug. I was disappointed. Dean says that he just needs to shower and, just, you can tell it's just get that feeling off of himself. Castiel, unfortunately, has to give Sam the news that Nick has done a runner. He left them a note saying that he had some personal business to work out. Yeah, we know what that was. We saw it. Ick. As it turns out, Sam and Cass talk for a minute about Dean and what they know about Michael and Michael's plans and all this stuff like that. This is going on in a voiceover as Dean's shedding his clothing, not all of it, unfortunately, but and the thing is, you can tell Dean's like angrily throwing these clothes down. He wants these clothes off of him because they just have that, they've been tainted because they were worn by him when he wasn't him, when it was Michael. And all this is going on, over over Cass and Sam talking about, what Dean remembers, how's he doing, and all this stuff like that. The thing is, Dean gets down to his undershirt and he looks at himself in the mirror and raises up the shirt a little bit, and there is a nasty looking scar on his arm. It's like, a big scar and then a small space and then another scar, and it looks pretty gruesome. And he looks completely like, what is this? He looks totally lost and more than a little scared. We cut from the opening credits and we see him talking with Sam and Cass that, he has no idea how he got this scar, where he got it, what it's from, nothing. And he tells Castiel to use his powers and get into his memory and see what he can find. So Castiel, reluctantly, goes into Dean's mind and he sees memories of things that Michael did, which things that we already saw as, watching the show. And the thing is, when Castiel touches, this is all when he's touching Dean's head. When he actually touches the scar, he sees something that we as the audience have not seen up till that point, which is we can tell it's not Dean, it's Michael is on the ground being stabbed by some kind of two-pronged weapon, and he's screaming. He's in a great deal of pain. So whatever he's being stabbed by, some kind of what we find out later on in the episode is a spear. It's some kind of a weapon that can hurt him, and he's being stabbed by this figure that's dressed all in black that looks disturbingly familiar. The guys put in a call, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead of myself. We cut to the office of, the police office in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where, Jody Mills is the sheriff. We see her getting a text from Claire about a case and whether or not it's involving monsters or not. She tells her it's not. Because she has an agreement with Claire. If there's a crime that looks like it's got, supernatural overtones to it, she's supposed to get in touch with Claire and, because Claire's, a hunter now. And Jody gets a call from the guys, and she's all, happy to hear from Dean and that he's, okay, or at least out of Michael's thrall now. They tell her about what happened, and they tell her that they think that whatever this thing is that attacked Michael and drove him out of Dean, it's the being that they dealt with before that escaped through the rift from the bad place, the being that wound up killing Kaya. Jody says there's been no rift activity as far as she can tell, but she does know about some dead bodies in her neck of the woods that have the same marks on them, the same marks on their bodies that Dean has on his, the scar. Sam and Dean, and originally it was going to be Sam, Dean, and Cass get ready to head out, and Jack wants to go with them, Dean shoots that idea down rather brutally. I was kind of like, look, Dean, I know that you've been through a lot, but really, sorry, I don't mean to be unkind, but the thing is, they wind up having another problem occur when, a hunter named Jules comes in, and she has with her a young lady named Laura. As it turns out, Jules was on a case in Kansas where a bunch of teenagers were showing up dead and their bodies just basically dried up husks. As it turns out, these teenagers had been captives of a witch, which included Laura. Laura's the only one that survived, but she was hit by a curse from the witch, and one of her hands is all withered and looks like the hand of a 90-year-old. Castiel thinks Castiel knows it from touching her and not being able to heal her right away. It's an aging spell, and it's killing her. And, Castiel says he's gonna stay behind to help Laura, and obviously probably also to keep an eye on Jack, because Jack is more than a little hurt that, as I said, when he says he wants to go with, Sam and Dean, that Dean's basically like, no, you're 100 pounds soaking wet and all this stuff like that. I mean, I know that it's tough love and, and all that stuff like that, and I get it, and Dean's been through a lot, and I get that too, but Dean, this is basically still a young kid, and I was like, the look on Jack's face was like total kicked puppy, and I was like, grr. We cut to Sam and Dean in the Impala. Dean's driving naturally, and Sam's naturally trying to get Dean to talk about what he's been through, what he remembers, because as Sam tells him, he didn't know what happened to Dean for weeks. He didn't know if Dean was, dead. He didn't know what had happened. He was trying to find out, and he was going crazy. He says to him, slow down so I can catch up. And I think that's also partially because Dean might get them in a wreck because he's driving too damn fast. And Dean doesn't answer and changes the subject and tells him that, they should be meeting up with Jody soon because it's Dean. And I realize that all the Dean divas out there just yelled at me and called me a bitch and all kinds of other stuff. Look, guys, I love Dean too. I love Dean a lot. But there are times when I want to grab him like a terrier would grab a rat and just shake it. I just want to grab him by those muscular shoulders and just shake the shit out of him. You only love the ones you hurt. Or is it the other way around? I don't know. They meet up with Jody, and she's, happy to see them and happy to see that Dean's, like I said, free of Michael. What she's been dealing with are 3 bodies with no heads that all bear the same stab wounds that Dean has the scar of in his arm. And Jody also says she likes Sam's beard, and Sam kind of looks at Dean like, I'm like, again, I was like, yeah, you look good, baby. Don't listen to him. Of course, he looks good without the beard or pants. Sorry. Okay, that was a little too much. Sorry. Moving forward. We see Jack in his room, and he's packed up a bag, and he has got an envelope that he's addressed to Sam, Dean, and Cass, and looks like he's going to run away from home, and I'm completely freaked. I'm like, no, you can't do this. You're too young and innocent. Come back. Did I mention that I have like maternal feelings about Jack, and it's really fucking confusing? I've never had feelings like this before, and it's really weird. But the thing is, before he can leave, he hears Castiel and Jules talking about what Laura's going through and how, Cass should just be able to, touch her, boom, angel mojo, done, fixed. But the problem is this spell, as Jack finds out when he goes in and talks to them, Laura's in a bed a little further away. Castiel can't just fix it with his powers because this spell is very deep and very complex. And they've gotten in touch with Rowena, and all this other stuff like that. And Castiel notices the bag that Jack has, and he asks him if he's leaving. Are you going somewhere? And Jack's like, no, and I was like, yay, stay put. because you're too much of a little precious muffin and I don't want you out there because it's horrible out there. Jody, Sam, and Dean are in the woods where the bodies were found and try to find out what's going on and find any kind of clues they can. Dean wants to split up. Sam and Jody both think that is a very bad idea. And as it turns out, they don't need to split up because although Dean was walking a little ahead of them, they find the heads of because Jody had those three missing, the three bodies missing the heads. Well, they found the heads. The thing is, they're mounted on sticks. Ew. Dean checks one of the heads. Blah. I'm sorry. Oh, gross. Totally. Blah. Gross. And touches, lifts up the lip of one of the heads and realizes all these three guys, they were all vampires. But Jody says that's not possible because she took a tissue sample home to Alex, and Alex tested the sample against silver, against dead man's blood, against all the things that would normally indicate vampire, but the test said no. So, who here thinks these are the new improved vampires that Michael's been tinkering around with? Yeah, me too. As they continue looking, Dean finds the remains of a fire cooling, and he has a moment where he has this kind of a flashback of seeing him. It's not him, really. It's Michael lying on the ground and looking up at this figure in black. And all of a sudden that figure is there and winds up attacking all three of them. As it turns out, it is, I don't know how else to term her. I'm going to call her not Kaya, I guess, would be the best way to put it. Not Kaya, who still has this spear made of whatever it's from, that winds up kicking Sam and Dean and Jody's ass and then running into the woods with her weapon. Jules and Castiel are working on the spell ingredients, getting them all together that Rowena says will cure Laura. Some of the spell ingredients are pretty disgusting. I mean, eyeballs? Ew. I'm sorry. I have a thing about eyeballs. I can deal with a lot of other stuff, chopped off limbs, stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I don't like it, but I can deal with it. Eyeballs? No. I'm fucking drawing the line. Jack is sitting with Laura, and she's well enough that she can still speak and stuff like that. And she tells him her story, how she was a runaway. She left home because she lived in a small town. She didn't like school. She was tired of being treated like a child. So she left town and wound up in the company of this witch who took her and two other girls in. And at first everything was great. The witch told her and the girls that the girls being there made her feel young. The thing is, she didn't stay nice for very long, and she wound up locking the girls up, and one by one they started to wither and die. And Laura was the only one left, and she thought she was going to be rescued when Jules showed up, but now she's sick too. Castiel is listening to all of this as Jack's telling her, we'll figure it out. Everything will be okay. Castiel will be able to fix this. And you can tell from the look on Castiel's face, he's not entirely sure he's going to be able to fix this. We see we see Sam talking with Jody and Dean after they're trying to, get up after having their butts handed to them by a young girl. Sam's whole thing is he thinks that Michael sent those vamps after this girl for some reason. So Dean, needless to say, is completely, if he wasn't single-minded about finding this girl before, he is now. Back at the Batcave, the spell is cast by Castiel and Jules to try and help Laura. At first, nothing seems to happen, but then all of a sudden, Laura starts convulsing, and it seems like this aging spell is working even faster than it was before. So we cut back to the woods. Jody winds up missing a call from Claire. Sam, needless to say, is really worried for Dean and his attitude and such. We see not Kaya breaking into a cabin, taking some water, taking some food. She goes outside and she winds up being knocked out rather brutally in the face by Dean. As Sam and Jody look on with this they both have this kind of, oh, this is not good look on their faces. And I gotta be honest, the look on Dean's face is pretty fucking scary. I'm like, this isn't good. This is very not good. We come back from commercial and, not Kaya is, tied to a chair in the cabin. She tells the Winchesters and Jody she hadn't intended to kill Kaya, that was an accident, that she was aiming for the blonde, meaning Claire. Not Kaya says that Michael is sending monsters after her, and that we also know that as an audience member because there's a trio of vamps in the woods right now hunting for her. Back in the Batcave, we see Castiel pulling the sheet over Laura's body. The curse has taken her life, and Jack is completely brokenhearted. He feels responsible. Poor little sweetheart. He feels like if he had his powers and everything, he could have healed her right away and all this stuff like that. And I'm just like, oh man, I felt so bad for him. But all of a sudden he gets this kind of like look on his face and he asks where the body of the witch is. Back in the woods, Dean tells Sam and Jody that they have to break not Kaya to find out where she's hidden her weapon. And she says that she knows why he said that and what he wants, that he wants to know where she's hidden the spear. And when she was talking to him before, she was saying all this stuff about, that he was weak and all this stuff like that. I'm like, why do people always accuse Dean of being weak? I mean, fuck that. Dean is one of the strongest people I've ever seen. And it really made me want to backhand the living fucking shit out of not Kaya. So back at the Batcave, Jules and Castiel are taking the witch's body out of a drawer. I guess they have a morgue in the Men of Letters Batcave. I guess it makes as much sense as anything else. Jack has a theory that he wants to get the witch killing bullet out of the witch's body, and because he thinks that there's something to do. He's got an idea. You can tell he's definitely got an idea forming in his head about what caused the spell to speed up instead of slow down and killed Laura. Dean is ramping up the attitude with not Kaya, and it's progressively getting a lot worse and a lot more uncomfortable, and some of us are having flashbacks to On the Head of a Pin. As it turns out, Jack's theory is that what wound up killing Laura, it was the curse, but Laura herself wasn't cursed. It was the necklace she was wearing. And the whole thing that he figured out is that the spell that the witch cast on Laura and the other girls was working through the necklace that she gave them, because Laura said that the witch gave them nice things, and one of the things she gave Laura was a necklace, and it's a necklace that looks a lot like the necklace that the witch is wearing. The witch has a necklace on her body as well. The only difference between the necklace she has and the necklace Laura has is the color of the stones. And Jack thinks that something about the witch killing bullet fucked stuff up, and he thinks he has a way to fix it and to maybe bring Laura back. As the vamps close in on the cabin in the woods, not Kaya tells Dean that he's just like Michael, which I was like, the hell? What? I was like that. But she does say that when Dean says he's nothing like him, she says, yeah, you are. You always have been, which I was kind of like, what? How do you know what Dean was? I mean, that line kind of threw me, and it obviously threw everybody else too. We see Jack taking the witch's necklace and breaking it, and when he breaks it, the life force from Laura that she was siphoning off flows out of the broken necklace and into Laura, and she's alive again. She's alive, she's okay, she's healed, and Jack is a genius! I'm so proud. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud. This is so awesome. Not Kaya, as it turns out, which Sam figures out because Sam is wicked smart. Since not Kaya is, or was, this world's Kaya's twin, duplicate, doppelganger, however you want to word it. I don't know how to word it, and it's giving me a headache. Since Kaya was a dream walker, Sam figures out that the other Kaya, this not Kaya, must be a dream walker too. And that's why she said what she said about Dean. She's seen everything that Kaya, this world's Kaya, experienced, including the time when Dean, stuck his gun in her face and, told her to get in the car, which, at the time I was like, wow, that's really not cool. But I was like, there's no fucking need for you to say that about him, not Kaya, bitch. We see a flashback of what happened and how Michael wound up fleeing Dean's body because he found not Kaya in the woods and made her an offer. He told her that he's building an army and that she could be on his side, what he referred to as the winning side, if she gave him the spear. Or he could kill her, or she could die later on, and he'll just take it. Needless to say, her answer was pretty much no, and they wind up having a very close and pretty vicious fight, and that's when she stabbed him in the arm with the spear, and I don't know if that's the exact moment he fled Dean's body. We didn't see it, but it must have been pretty soon after that, and whatever it was whatever it is that spear is made of, it's something that can hurt Michael. It's something Michael is afraid of. And Sam's basically like, we need to get out of here, now. But Jody, who looks out the window and sees the vamps closing in, says it's already too late. The vamps get into the cabin. They say that they only want to, they're only there for Kaya, but they'll kill the Winchesters and Jody if they get a chance. So we get a very nasty, extremely close up, very vicious fight between the Winchesters, Jody, and the vamps. During said fight, the Winchesters and Jody also get their asses kicked again, unfortunately, including Jody getting her arm broken. Dean shoots one of the vamps with a bullet that should have killed a vampire, but the vampire doesn't even slow down and tells Dean that those bullets don't hurt them anymore. Dean then takes his gun and shoots the chair leg of the chair that not Kaya is tied to free her, and not Kaya immediately jumps out the window. But before anything, she comes back really damn quick, so that spear must have been hidden close by, because the vamp that was going to kill Jody all of a sudden winds up with a spear sticking out of the back of his head. Ew. Awesome, but ew. And she very quickly dispatches the other two vamps with ease with this spear. When Jody thanks her and tells her that she didn't have to come back for them, she basically tells her, I wasn't saving you, I was saving them, meaning the Winchesters. When Sam tells her that, Michael's not gonna stop, he's gonna keep sending monsters after you, she basically says she knows, and she's basically like, I'll deal with it. And then she's gone. She pulls a Batman. 1 minute she's there, the next minute she's gone. We see the Winchesters and Jody heading back to their respective cars. Jody says that she can drive with a broken arm, so Jody's just fucking badass. But you can tell more than her arm is hurting, which I'm sure it is hurting, her heart is hurting so much, because it just hurts so much to see somebody with Kaya's face and know that that's not Kaya. And when Sam asks if she's all right, she says, it's just, seeing her face again. Raising 3 hunters and fearing every day that I might lose one of them. didn't really even get a chance to know Kaya before I just feel like I already lost before I ever even began. And Jody kind of turns away, and I think it's because she doesn't want the Winchesters to see the tears in her eyes, but, they know they're there, and there's no shame or embarrassment in that, because Jody's a very caring, feeling person, and she's a mom. I mean, she was a mom before the girls came into her life, and she knows that she's got to go home and tell Alex and Claire that not Kaya's on this earth running around somewhere, and that's going to be really, really hard. And that's, especially because it seems, as she mentioned to the Winchesters earlier in the episode, Kaya and Claire, there was something forming there, which I was like, that's really sad. Back at the Batcave, Laura is being taken home back to her mom by Jules, and Castiel tells this to Jack, who's sitting in his room, and Castiel tells him that he's sorry that he hasn't been there for him as much recently, but he does tell him that he's so proud of Jack, that he held his own, that he's the one that came up with what saved Laura, that was him. That was his smarts. It wasn't his powers or anything like that, which even, that was him being smart on his own. And that's a good thing. And he says that he'll talk to the Winchesters and that maybe they could go on a hunting trip together, the four of them, if Jack wants that. And he says that, Jack says that he does want it. He says it kind of in between the cough that he has, because he's coughing a little bit, and he kind of writes it off and shrugs it off and says that, because he's human, this must be his first cold. And Castiel offers to make him some soup, and I'm just like, I'm completely melting. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so sweet. And the thing is, after Cass leaves, Jack's still kind of coughing a little, and I'm kind of like, I don't like the sound of that. That's making me worried. We see Sam and Dean driving back to the Batcave, and as they're talking, which they are kind of actually talking for a change, Dean says that he was stupid for saying yes to Michael. Sam tells him he did what he had to do. And he did. He was trying to save everybody. He was trying to save Jack. He was trying to save Sam. And he knew that a powered up Lucifer would ruin the world. And Dean is actually honest with Sam and says that it wasn't just a blink, that he doesn't remember most of what Michael did while he was using him as his vessel, because he felt like he was underwater, that he was drowning. And he remembers that feeling, the feeling of drowning, of trying to fight for air. And he blames himself. He feels like he wasn't strong enough. I'm like, how are you supposed to overcome being possessed by an archangel? Dean says, and now he's gone, and he's out there putting an army of monsters together, and he's hurting people. And it's all on me, man. I said yes. It's my fault. And of course, we as the audience are sitting there going, please don't do this to yourself. Please don't do this to yourself. Please. And just to make the episode that much more of a kick in the nuts, we cut back to the Batcave, where we see Jack still in his room, and he's coughing a little more than he was before, and is now coughing into a tissue. And when he pulls the tissue away, it's spattered with blood, which he then throws into the wastebasket in his room, which is also full of bloodied tissues. And the episode ends. I give the scar 4.5 bouquets out of 5. But seriously, guys, could you kick me in the feels any harder? I'm sorry. The whole thing with Dean, and now something's wrong with Jack, and something being wrong with Jack is unfucking acceptable. I'm sorry. No, the second I saw the blood on the handkerchief, on the tissue, I was just like, no. I was like, that hurt. I mean, that physically caused me pain seeing that. And I was like, you can't do this to us, writers. Please don't do this, please. Oh, this episode really drained me. And I have to bring up our wonderful guest stars, Kim Rhodes, who is amazing always as Sheriff Jody Mills. Love her to death. Not Kaya, played by Yadria Guevara Prip. I hope I said that even close to correct. I'm sorry if I didn't. If you feel free to screw up my name if you want to, if we're ever lucky enough to meet. I do have one question. Did you guys in the costume department and everything like that, did you go out of your, I mean, she's amazing too. Yadria is amazing. She's just so wonderful. And she plays not Kaya so differently from what we saw of Kaya. She's just a terrific actress, I have to say. But seriously, wardrobe people and the people who design the costumes and such, is there some reason you guys decided to make not Kaya look like Kylo Ren? I'm sorry, she looks like a gender-flipped Kylo Ren. There, I said it. Not sorry. Great episode, but seriously, this one kicked the shit out of my feelings. I'm not kidding. Wow. This show is really, really putting us through the ringer this season, I think, as fans. Next week's episode, Mint Condition, is dealing with what looks to be action figures or, statues coming to life and killing people. That's obviously not a good thing. And since it's Halloween, hopefully we'll get some, it's close to Halloween time. Hopefully we'll get some Halloween references in there. But I can't wait, and I know neither can you guys. So, that's gonna wrap things up for my show this week. But I do have something that I'd like to talk about real quick before I head out. And, I like to try and keep my show fun and silly and crazy, because there's enough bad things going on out there that I want you guys to have a little fun when you come in. You come in here on the interwebs and listen to my show, and, we talk about this crazy show that we watch about two guys and an angel fighting monsters and all this stuff like that. And I try and be wacky and silly and crazy and zany and stuff like that, but sometimes you gotta be a little bit serious. And, I really wish I didn't have to be serious about this, but, I wish I didn't have to say this stuff because I wish it didn't happen to this person. WWE champion Roman Reigns this week announced that he was vacating the title and taking a leave of absence for a little bit because he is battling leukemia. Roman Reigns, whose real name is Joe Anoa'i, is a one-time, he survived leukemia before 11 years ago when he didn't tell any of us he had leukemia because he didn't want people to know, because he wanted to be a private person about it. But unfortunately, the leukemia came back, and he is going to be recovering and fighting and kicking ass. And I said this before, and I'll say it again, fuck cancer. Fuck cancer with a fucking cactus right up its fucking ass without fucking lube. Did I mention I get kind of sweary on this show sometimes? Anyway, I mean, I just feel so badly about this because he's an amazing athlete. He's a dad. He's a husband. He's a human being, and he shouldn't have to go through this, and it fucking sucks. So, I am asking you guys out there, if you are a person of faith, whatever faith that is, whomever you offer prayers to, say a prayer for Roman and his family, please. And even if you don't, even if you're not a person of faith and you don't pray to anybody, which is fine, that's fine. I have no issues with that either. If you could just send out some positive thoughts and some healing vibes to Roman, that would be really cool, and I would appreciate that muchly, because I'm doing that as well. And get well soon, Roman. Kick cancer's ass and come back, man. We'll miss you a lot. So, I'd like to talk real quick about the other shows I'm involved with on the internet. Those would include Subject Cinema and 3 Minute Weekend, which is our movie and list show that TC and I do together, and also my other solo show, Ring Around the Rosie, which is my wrestling podcast. You can check them all out. Also part of our show, our little family, are TC's solo shows. He's a super person and is very wicked smart, and also does some great shows as well, including Catastrophe Vortex, because he is a disaster movie junkie and I am not. And he has 2 smaller shows, 3 Minute Weekend and Tuesday Digidex, where he looks at upcoming movies coming to theater, to pay-per-view, on DVD, all kinds of stuff, so you know where to spend your money. You can also go check out Cave Babble with Eric and Valerie, and Aunt B's Nerd Grotto on YouTube with our friend Anthony, who is a great person. Eric and Valerie are awesome people too. You can also go listen to our dramatic work, which is called Manhattan Hammerdown As It Happened, done in conjunction with the 10-year anniversary of the release of the film Cloverfield. I hope you'll check that out as well. If you'd like to write to me, you can do that at platinumroselle@yahoo.com. Put PRG in the header, and if you'd like me to read the letter on the air, I totally will do that. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, I'm platinumroselle@twitter.com. You can also check out my fanfiction at fanfic.net if you search for Platinum Rose Lady. And that is going to do it for another week here on Platinum Rose's Garden. And so I wish you guys a very happy and safe Halloween. Keep an eye out there for all the little ghouls and goblins when you're out driving and stuff. And if it's your responsibility to hand out the candy, don't leave the good stuff. Don't hog all the good stuff for yourself. Make sure you give the kids the good candy too. Don't just give them the crap stuff and keep the good stuff for yourself. So, this is Platinum Rose Lady signing off for another week and reminding you to love the ones you hug the ones you love, and take some time to stop and smell the roses. I'll see you around. Bye!
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.